Hey, welcome back to the channel there, Weather Junkies. I'm your host, Greg Majeski, your personal weatherman, bringing you a weather update without all that social media hype here on your September the 4th, Wednesday, 2024. Let's go ahead and take a look at the latest weather headlines here for today as we're going to be tracking some heavy rains along the Gulf Coast. Got some pretty good rains moving into areas of Galveston here for this morning. I'll show the radar here on that just a second. Looks like we're at the summer heat in the west. Fall-like in the east, and that'll continue with another reinforcing shot of some cooler air coming down across the east going into this upcoming weekend. And we'll give you the latest out in the tropics. We're still tracking several disturbances out there. We'll give you the latest here from the National Hurricane Center. Now, before we get into the thrust of this report, if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, what are you waiting for? Go ahead, please hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you alert on future content. And if you enjoyed this report, again, leave me a thumbs up, leave a comment down below, share it with your friends. It does help with the YouTube algorithm. And of course, if you're new to the channel, welcome on board. All right, let's take a look right now at your current satellite imagery here as we got Old Boundary here across the south. You can see little clusters of thunderstorms there south of the Florida panhandle there. Got some storms here off the Texas Gulf Coast as well. Some pretty good rains there moving in near the Houston area. I'll show you the radar here in a second. Here's a little disturbance that's coming out here in the plains. This will set up some marginal severe weather stretching from Minnesota back toward Colorado. I'll show you the specifics on that as well. As we're looking at the current surface map, again, you're seeing that stationary boundary here. Very pleasant temperatures here in the east, a lot of 50s and 40s, even a nice wake-up temperature of 60 degrees outside my door this morning. Felt very nice indeed. And seeing some rains out here in the plains stretching from South Dakota back toward Colorado. Again, we could see some pop-up storms with the daytime heating today. That may set up a marginal risk for some strong gusty winds. That'll be the big threat there for this afternoon. Looking at your watches and warnings, very quiet here in the east. Back toward the west, though, we're dealing with the heat advisory. This is excessive heat watch out here for Arizona, California. Yeah, I can look at the heat advisories here for the interior valleys, looking at 100-plus degrees out here. This is your red flag conditions. That's the dry weather. Obviously, we don't want to be setting any fires out here for sure. Still in that fire weather season out here in the west. And still got that cluster of the flash flood watches here across Texas. And boy, they had some flooding out there. I saw some video on YouTube showing some of the rivers out here getting pretty flooded with some pretty heavy rains, and hopefully things will begin to dry out a little bit in that part of the country. Looking at where they're not getting where they need to get a break, they're not getting it. It's a pretty stream of some pretty good moisture coming in toward Galveston right now, and could make its way into some of the suburbs of Houston here over the next couple of hours or so. But eventually this disturbance is going to get picked up and kind of make its way along the Gulf Coast before it kind of kicks on out of here as we head into this upcoming weekend. And I'll show you the models to kind of show you that here in a second. All right, let's talk about our weather city of the day. We're talking Carmel, Indiana. I was like, boy, that's a beautiful camera. Now, beautiful shot. Lots of sunshine for today. Current temperature at 52. They're looking for an afternoon high today with sunny skies at about 84 degrees. Low humidity, a perfect late summer day. Hey, and if you'd like to make your city the weather city of the day, and you got a webcam in your area, maybe on YouTube or some other source, just go ahead and get a copy of that link, post it down below, and we'll use it for a future broadcast. All right, it's time to take over here and take a look over at the latest from the Storms Prediction Center as we take a look at the latest outlook here. As we're looking at the day one outlook is, again, I was mentioning we do have a marginal risk from severe weather coming into an area there basically from Minnesota, coming back over toward Wyoming and over toward Colorado in that zone right there. So your main threat that you're going to see there is going to be some strong gusty winds. That's winds getting up to 50, 55 miles per hour potentially. But I'm not expecting any tornado threat or hail threat to be a big problem with that system as it exits out into the plains here for today. In fact, once this goes by, so we take a look at your day two outlook, just a general thunderstorm threat here for a big portion of the country. Not expecting much in the way of problems here. Just some thunderstorms here across the Midwest, down toward the middle of the country, and kind of right along the Gulf Coast there. As we're watching a little surge of moisture, it's going to kind of kick out of Texas and track along the Gulf Coast there as we go into Thursday and into your Friday. And then finally looking at your day three outlook as well. Again, just looking at a general thunderstorm threat, no organized severe weather expected as we go into later in the week. So looking pretty good for you Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday this week. Just today, looking at that marginal risk for severe weather. Again, we'll go and recap that once again. We're talking about Denver, Colorado, Colorado Springs, Minneapolis, Aurora. That also includes, Sioux Falls is in there as well, Aberdeen, looking at Cheyenne as well. in that risk for a marginal risk for severe weather. Again, nothing too widespread. It'll be isolated at best for today. So that's what you're looking at there from the Storms Prediction Center. All right, let's talk about the tropics as we're looking at the tropics hazards outlook. This was just updated yesterday. And what we're seeing here is we're watching a couple areas here this coming up week. So we knew we're watching there in the Gulf there, that area there, looking at potentially some problems there. So we're talking about the Southwest Gulf being a problem. We're talking about areas out here in the middle of the Atlantic, as obviously we've got several areas of disturbed weather out there disturbed. What caught my eye with this update is the fact that it actually reduces the risk later in the month. As you look here from going into the 18th to the 24th, it actually comes down. It actually goes down a little bit to about 20% chance there. So, this hurricane season has been very atypical. It has been very unusual, to say the least, as far as, we're in the month of September. In fact, I saw something yesterday that it actually had been the longest period between August, I think it was like the 13th to the 3rd, where we did not go into September with a storm. It was like 1969, I believe was the year I saw. But yeah, it's just so unusual to see this. We've got 3 areas of disturbed weather. Again, I might throw a 4th area there off the Carolina coast on the tail end of a front. I'll show you the European model here in a second. That it may develop into something, whether it's going to be actually a tropical system or some sort of hybrid. We'll have to wait and see. But right now, nothing imminently developing out here with these 3 different systems that are out there, as you're seeing currently right now. Let's go ahead and take a look at the water vapor imagery. And the one thing that's very unusual, obviously, is just the amount of dry air that's out there. All that yellow out you're seeing out there is just a lot of dry air out there. Now, there does appear to be some sort of trying to organize some sort of spin out here with this tropical wave. We've been watching this one for a while. This is the one that's probably going to move into the Bay of Campeche potentially and may develop there. But you know what? I'm not overly sold on that's going to happen just yet. Then you got these other tropical waves out here. But the other problem that we've been having with some of these waves is the fact that they're coming off the African coast too high in latitude, too far north. Not coming around 10. They're kind of more toward 15 to 20 degrees north. And that's far enough north where they're going to get pulled by the westerlies and pulled off. So we haven't had very good tropical waves to come off the coast of Africa, either because of Saharan dust or coming off the coast way too far north. And we're just not getting that transit of these tropical waves to come across the tropical hot zone where all that ocean heat is and to develop anything. It's just been very unusual to see so far this hurricane season. And obviously, if that little disturbance that goes into the Bay of Campeche becomes a problem, we're going to have to watch that because we got water temperatures down here sitting, 87, 88 degrees. So it's very warm. It's bath water there. So if something develops, it'll at least have something definitely to feed off, some very warm Gulf of Mexico waters for that disturbance as we go into early next week. All right, so let's take a look here from the ECENS ensemble models. This is the overnight models here. Boy, we're getting lines all over the place on this one, to say the least, showing the active pattern out there with different things. Let me go to my interactive mode here. I do want to kind of step you through this here a little bit. All right, so you'll see what I was talking about here about this one zone here that we're kind of watching very closely out here in just off the East Coast. So we're looking at this little disturbance there. That one could become Florence before anything else. It definitely does seem to kick up pretty quick, but that's the first area. Then we're going to be obviously watching this other little disturbance coming down here toward the Bay of Campeche, and then of course we'll see about other waves out here out in the Atlantic. The one thing that this ensemble does kick off is it does show a pretty good strong wave coming off the coast of Africa there. So you see we got a couple of areas that we're watching there going in toward next week. So we're looking at this day right here. We're talking about next Tuesday right now. So you got a good wave coming off the coast. You're still watching this stuff out here. Again, we'll be watching this area in the Bay of Campeche to see if something there's going to develop or not. But again, as we go forward here in time, that disturbance coming off African coast is too far north. That is way too far north. If it does anything to develop, it's not going to get anywhere near the United States. It's going to stay well out to sea. So that's not going to be a problem at all. So there you can kind of see where we're watching for those developments. So we're going to be watching that wave here. We're going to watch this wave here. And then, of course, we got that disturbance, which is not on the National Hurricane Center's radar just yet. But that's something to watch here as we go into this upcoming weekend. And that will probably head up into Canada and not be a problem with that particular one off the Atlantic seaboard there. So as we take a look at the latest European model here, as we go ahead and kick you in over here, I want you to watch that timestamp in the upper right-hand corner. Again, as we're going to be watching that disturbance off the East Coast there. You see it kind of kicking up right there. That's going to be the zone to watch here for potential development. Is it going to be a tropical low? Is it going to be a hybrid low or something? We'll wait and see on this, but wouldn't surprise me if the Weather Service says, "Nope, that's Francine. We'll add a name to our storm name there," and that'll be the one that we'll see potentially going into this upcoming Friday. So right now, not really on the National Hurricane Center's radar just yet, but it's possible. We'll see how it works out. And as we go ahead and take a look at the rest of this, another thing I do want to point out again is look at this. We got this good tropical wave here coming off, very strong tropical wave coming here off the coast going into Monday and Tuesday. All right. And that thing is sitting, it rolls up to about 20 degrees latitude. That's again, like I've been saying, too far north. This thing sitting right here should be sitting down here and is too far north. And as a result of that, these westerlies are going to kick in and going to obviously pick it up. Not going to be a problem for that system to develop or get anywhere near the continental United States. So again, taking this out to the end of the model run there, again, that's the only thing showing. We got two things we're watching, one off the Atlantic seaboard, one there, but none of those tropical waves that we showed you out of the Atlantic are showing any signs of development, at least not on the European model. And of course, that's my model of preference when it comes to the tropics. They do a better job with that than most of the others, especially the GFS model, which can fluctuate quite a bit in the long run. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the continental United States weather pattern here as I go ahead and switch you over here to the continental United States. Let's switch over to that. Continental North America here, and here we go. So we're going to kind of watch the jet flow here. I'm going to go ahead and switch this over to the 500 millibar here, and we'll back this up here. As you're going to watch that track here again. We're watching that big plume. You see that big drop off there coming in? That is what's going to be bringing in our nice little cool shot here for this upcoming weekend. So we got some nice cool air. It's going to come down into over the Great Lakes and in the south, and of course we got the ridging out here in the western portion of the United States. So that means the heat's going to stay out there. As I go ahead and drag you through the rest of this 10-day model, notice that it begins to retreat back up, and things will begin to oscillate a little bit, which we got a pretty good trough here coming in off the west coast. So the heat wave that the west has right now, as we head toward the middle of next week, we're going to beat that back down, folks. That's some good news there. It's been, I know, hot for the interior section of California and Washington. Give it one more week. Next week at this time, we should see things begin to back off there, and things should begin to improve out on the west coast as that kind of moves inland, enough to beat that heat wave back. But most of the country is pretty quiet at that point because the jet stream flow is sitting up here like that. So it'll be pretty dry across a big portion of the country there going into next week. So let's switch down to the continental United States side. We'll watch that very closely here as we look at the continental United States. Let me clear this out. And we'll go to the continental U.S. here, get a better view here of the graphic here, and I will shift that up for you here a little bit. And we'll shift this up here a little bit, get this set. I'm doing this on the fly. Bear with me for a second. There we go. And we'll frame this thing back up a little bit better there. I had switched it over for the European, for the model day there earlier. So we're going to back this up here, go over to precipitation mode again, and watch what happens with the precipitation, because we're not going to see a whole lot, folks, except for the area along the Gulf Coast. Again, we saw that surge of moisture along the Gulf Coast. That is going to be bringing some pretty good rains there going into Friday along Louisiana, the Gulf Coast area. That'll be some pretty good rains there. That's that tropical disturbance getting pulled up by this frontal system that's kind of diving down here. So we're going to take this up, we're going to dive this up and head it up the eastern seaboard here as we go into this upcoming weekend. All right. So as we go through the rest of this model run, once this goes on by, you see that low kind of spinning there across the Great Lakes. So a little bit unsettled there into Sunday, cloudy, definitely on the cool side across Michigan for sure. But look at the bulk of the country, man. Other than maybe Florida, where that frontal system is going to be kind of stalled down here, we'll still have some rains down here going into early next week. But most of the country, it's quiet, folks. Nothing out there to really be too concerned about. That's for sure. And we'll go ahead and take this out to the rest of this run as that low kicks on out. That stationary boundary stays down to the south. And the rest of the nation looking pretty quiet going into next week. So that's some good news. A little bit of rain there, maybe out there toward Washington State, and remaining unsettled there across areas of the deep south, across South Georgia and Florida, going in toward the end of next week with that stationary boundary not going anywhere obviously. All right. So let's talk about temperatures. Let's talk about how that translates as far as the above highs and lows. We know that's going to be a little bit on the different side there. Let's switch over to that right here as we're looking at the European anomaly map, and you can kind of track and see how things are going to progress here with the cooler shot. So we know right now we're starting off with, because of the rain and clouds and usually cool weather here across Texas, a little pocket there across Cheyenne, and the rest of the nation not too bad, but definitely above normal here out in the west. As you're seeing, temperatures this afternoon will be running 10 to 15 degrees above average out there on the west coast. So again, watch that timestamp as we go through this, as we progress here through. We're going to watch that next cold shot come down. You see the cold shot coming in across the Great Lakes. Obviously, we're going to see temperatures there in the south being inhibited because of the rainfall down there. Temperatures running 15, 17 degrees below average there because of clouds and rain. Here comes our cold front here. Some very cool air here across the Great Lakes, rotating around that kind of upper level low that'll be spinning there across there for this upcoming weekend. And as we go into the rest of this model run here, you can see it settling up here across the east. Again, looking pretty cool there for afternoon highs there on Saturday. Boy, we're talking temperatures running almost 20 degrees below normal, 15 to 20 in that little cluster there. But definitely hot out here in the west. Boy, we're looking very steamy. About 23 degrees above normal there across Washington State, and the interior sections of California are going to bake here, obviously with 100 plus degree temperatures expected out there as well. As I go ahead and take you through the rest of the model run here, as we see this, again, we'll see things begin to slowly modify. It's still looking cool across the east there going into your Sunday, obviously. Sunday looking at below normal temperatures across basically the eastern half of the United States, warmer out in the west. And that'll begin to modify a bit as we go toward next week, as that kind of slips away. But boy, look, really, really warm out here in the high plains here, even getting into areas of Canada, looking at 20, 30 degrees above normal there. Starts to cool off a little bit out here on the west coast, a little bit, and fairly seasonable, within a degree or two, a little below average here with a blue here and here, but not really significant cool down there. So that's some good news. Things will be, not too bad, be fairly seasonable as we go toward the end of next week. So let's talk about your climatology here. We'll take a look at that, how that translates there. As you would expect, as we just showed you there, cool in the east. You're going to stay very warm out here in the west. And that really was showing up good on the 10-day up here, 20, 30 degrees above normal for sure, from September 9th through the 13th. And as we look at the 11th through the 17th, just a little bit of pocket of below normal here across the southeast, mostly because of precipitation in that area. Very warm across most of the country, but with its warm air, as we were showing you, the lack of precipitation, big time dry here. We'll start to activate there with that next storm system coming in here on the west coast. That'll kind of knock the temperatures down there eventually here across portions of California and the northwest. Still staying rainy. That boundary is going to stall down here across areas of the south, so it's going to keep that precipitation chances up down there, and that'll continue into the September 11th to the 17th here across South Georgia into the Florida Panhandle and Peninsula. But most of the nation pretty dry, except for areas here in the northwest. We got that storm system swinging in here on the west coast. So not an overly active pattern, not as active as it was for most of August, that's for sure. But we do got to continue to watch the tropics to see how things develop out there. So unusual. I'm looking forward to seeing some of the papers written up post-seasonal on this because it definitely is not going to get near 25 named storms this year. Not anywhere close to that. Just shows that when it comes to weather science, in some areas, especially long-range forecasting, we're still very much in our infancy. We can do pretty decent in a 7-day forecast, but you try to go out 30, 60, 90, I don't put a whole lot of credence in that. It really kind of depends on a lot of factors there. Anyway, that's your update for now. If you guys like the reporting, like to make this a regular in your YouTube feed, all I ask is please subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you're alerted on future content. And if you got a comment, you got any feedback, please post it down below. I'd like to read those from folks, and I do appreciate you guys' support here of the channel. That's your update for now. You guys take it easy, be good, stay safe, and we'll see you next time. Bye, guys.